Hello and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. And look at this, it's a normal looking puzzle today. It's not this, which is what I was faced with yesterday. If you've not watched yesterday's video yet, it is actually the length of a movie. 1.5 hours of battle did I do with Underbeyond's madness. That's the best way of describing it. I barely escaped alive, and yeah, I'm looking forward to today hopefully to doing something a little more manageable. The puzzle is by Tenor Lehrman, who actually goes by another pseudonym over on our Discord server, Just for Kicks. So I don't know which pseudonym to use. I'll probably use Tenor Lehrman. That's the pseudonym on Logic Masters Germany that this puzzle has appeared on, and it's got a hugely high rating and not too difficult. 3 stars out of 5 for difficulty, so it ought to be approachable in the classic meaning of the word. Now, a couple of days ago, we launched Reverend's Puzzle Hunt over on Patreon for those of you who are patrons, and the response has been, well, extraordinary, I think. It would be a good word to use. We've had, I think, over 200 correct solutions, many of whom are saying that this is my first puzzle hunt and I absolutely had a blast, and that is exactly what we were aiming for. So it's fantastic for Reverend, it's fantastic for us, and it's fantastic for you guys who are discovering this world of puzzle hunting, especially as this week sees the start, I think, on Friday of the MIT Mystery Hunt, which is sort of the granddaddy of puzzle hunts. But Mark and I definitely are sort of taking note of how popular these things are, and we will do our best to bring you more of them in the future, of course. Now, I want to give a shout out to those of you who were correct. I think Mark's going to continue this list later because we're getting so many entries in. But well done to Casper Sund, Petr Simonovic, Interspleen. I like reading these out. These have some people have the most unusual names they want to be known by. Chris Renahan, Wim de Smet, sorry Wim, Kaput, Glenn Broadway, Adam Weber, Crash HP, Mohammed Sharabati, Andreas Matthau maybe, Helen RV, Mark Wiseman, David Mugridge, Tor Johansson, Joran Zels, Mikael Wilfer, Eric Bill, Ben Bush, Fabian Noth, Dan Byram and Susanna Lawford, James Tanner, Marcel Hoke, Jonathan Weeks, Elias Karamalagos, I think I got that right actually, Karamalagos, Edwin aka, Christy Klingert, Benjamin Huang, Mark and Kira, Theta, and Francis Keir. Fantastic solving, all of you. Very well done. And do keep the entries coming in, and we'll keep reading them out. Now, let's get on to Tenor Lehrman's puzzle, and let me read you the rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Yes. To digits on the arrow path, add to the digit in that arrow's circled cell. So, classic arrows rules. Digits can repeat on the arrow if allowed by the other rules. So basically that means, let's look at this arrow here. Those 3 squares, whatever they are, add them up. That's what's got to appear in that circle. And then the digits on the grey lines form palindromes, i.e. the sequence reads the same whether read forwards or backwards. So let's look at this grey line. What is a palindrome? Well, let's imagine there was a 1 at this end. The moment there's a 1 at this end, you know there must be a 1 at the other end, because we have to be able to read them the same if we read them backwards or forwards. So if this square is a 4, this square is a 4. If this square is a 6, that square will be a 6. So now if we read it 1, 4, 6, 6, 4, 1, that obviously reads exactly the same as 1, 4, 6, 6, 4, 1 if we read it from the other direction. In fact, I have just noticed something that might help me start the puzzle, which is rather cool. So, anyway, do have a go at this. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play Let's Get Cracking. Now I have noticed something about this palindrome, but I'm going to actually... Arrows puzzles, I'm always tempted to start when they have... you know, if we have 3 cells on an arrow that are either in the same box or in the same row as in these 3 cases, we know something quite interesting already about these 3 squares. They have to be at least equal to 6. And the reason we know that is, what's the minimum I can make these 3 squares add up to? Well, given they have to be different digits, the minimum I could put in would be 1, 2 and 3. And 1, 2 and 3 add up to 6. Knowledge bomb from Cracking the Cryptic. So this square, and this square all have to be at least... In fact, there is a fascinating puzzle I'm now or sort of pattern in this Sudoku. I'm just wondering whether or not, yeah, I think we should talk about the palindrome, because these palindromes, and they all work the same way, are profoundly important for the arrows that appear in boxes 3, 6 and 9. Now, why do I think that? Well, it was as I was putting in the example, I noticed that whatever goes, I'm going to colour it in actually, whatever goes in this cell repeats in this square here. So those two digits are the same. So the question we should ask is, where does the purple digit go in row 3 of the grid? Well, it's going to be on the arrow. One of these squares has got to be purple. Now let's do the same with this cell. Let's make those two green. Where does the green digit go in row 3 of the grid? Again, it's got to be on the arrow. And where does the orange digit go in row 3? Again, it's on the arrow. So these palindrome digits are also arrow digits, and that obviously works the same way on this palindrome and on this palindrome. Right, okay, well, and the next thing I can see is this arrow, because it's not quite as powerful as this arrow over here, because this square, because the arrow wiggles, see it sort of wiggles to the right here, this cell could actually be repeated on the arrow. So whatever's in this square, if this was a 1, it would be perfectly possible to have a 1 here, for example. And that means that the total of this arrow is not 6, it's higher than 6. In fact, it could be as low as 4, I guess. If this was 1 and this was a 1-2 pair, this could be 4. But now we've got to sort of balance what it can be from an arrow point of view with what it can be over here because of the palindrome. This cannot be too high. If this square was a 7, we'd have to put a 7 on this arrow, and obviously we couldn't keep this down to a single digit total then, because if we had a 7 and a 1 and a 2, that would add up to 10. So this square is a 4, 5 or a 6. Therefore this square, I suppose, is a 4, 5 or a 6. Okay, well that means these squares are 1, 2 or 3, because we can't now have, well, we couldn't have another 4, for example. If we try and put a 4 in any of the green or orange squares, what are we going to put in the purple square? It's going to have to be more than 4. 4 plus 5 is already 9 without taking into account the third digit. So now what does that mean? So that means that we've got 3 digits here. 1 is a 4, 5 or 6, and 2 are selected from the digits 1, 2 and 3. So this can't be 6. Okay, that's a minor deduction, but I'm going to take it. This can't be 6 because I can't make these 3 squares 1, 2 and 3. So we get rid of 6 into this cell. Now, there are some obvious things here that are quite interesting. If this is a 4, the only way this can be a 4 is if this cell is a 1. And that has a profound impact on the arrow. The moment you have a 1 in this row, the minimum I can make these squares is 2, 3 and 4, which would plonk a 9 into the arrow square. So 4 is always accompanied with a 9 in this cell. And 6 is the same. That's interesting. Yeah, if we go 6 in these two purple squares, because I have to put a 6 into one of these squares, and the minimum I could accompany the 6 with would be 1 and 2, again I'd get a 9. 5 I would doubt if that's quite as restricted. If you get 5 in these two squares, you've got to put a 5 in there. No, hang on. I've missed something here. I have missed something, and that is this square is interesting, isn't it? Right, let's look at this. This square here is a 4, 5 or a 6. The minimum I can make this domino is a 1 and a 2. So this square is a 1, 2 or a 3, creating a triple in this box. But I think that there is more going on here. Yeah, I mean, let's go back now to looking at 5, because I think we know what 5 is if we think harder about it. The moment we put 5s into these two squares, let's think about this square. What are the options for this square? This square can only be a 1 or a 2 if this is a 5, because if this is a 3, I've got to put double 1 in there, and Snake Eyes ain't going to help us. So if this square is a 1 or a 2, now how on earth do I fill this arrow? I can fill it, but I can't fill it with 5, 1, 2. That's impossible, because that's going to leave this cell with no options. So I'd have to fill this with 5, 1, 3 in order to keep this down to a single digit total. So I think this square is always 9, no matter what I put into those squares. Well, when I say I think, I'm very confident, because that's what the logic seems to suggest. There's sort of a symbiotic relationship between this arrow here and these cells. So the weird thing is I still have no clue whether these are 4, 5 or 6, but I do know that this is 9, which means these squares aren't 9, I suppose. Let's take 9 out of those. Now, does this take us anywhere in terms of the bottom of the grid then? I now know there's definitely a 1 on each of these arrows, which means there's definitely a 1 in one position on each of these palindromes. It's probably here. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but just to keep this to a low total. This square has to be a 1, 2 or a 3. Oh no, it doesn't. No, actually that's not true. That could be a 4. If that's a 4, 1, 1 would probably work. Okay, 2, 3 or 4. I can't really see what to do at the bottom of the grid, I have to be honest. So is there more I can learn about the top of the grid here? If I've got 4 here, this would have to be 2, 3, 4 to make the 9. This square would be a 1. This would be a 1, 2 pair. That would be very nice, because that would put a lot of pressure on this arrow. If this is 6, we get 6, 1, 2 here. This is 3. Whether this is 4 or 6, you get a 1, 2 pair here. Now, let's look at 5 again. If this is 5, we know that's a 1, 3. Oh, good grief. Right, this is important. Okay, right. So whatever I put in the purple squares, I keep missing the obvious. Whatever I put in the purple squares, it has an impact obviously on this total, which has an impact on this square, and the impact on this square is rather clever, because it always forces this domino to be a 1, 2 pair. So let's just prove it to ourselves again. If this is double 6, this is a 1, 2, 6 triple. This becomes a 3 then. That's the only time it ever gets to be a 3. So if this is 6 and this is 3, this has to be a 1, 2 pair to make the arrow work. If this is 4, we know this is a 2, 3, 4 triple, so this is now a 1, and this is a 1, 2 pair. If this is 5, we get 5, 1, 3. A 2 here means this is a 1, 2 pair. So this is always a 1, 2 pair. We still don't know what this digit is. We still don't know what the purple digits are. And we still don't know how the 9 total is made up. But I do think this is important, because these two squares are now pressured. So look, we can fill in a 1 or a 2 at the other end of the palindrome. These two cells now, yeah, we can, oh, we get this digit. We get this digit. This is very, very clever. This is really nice, this Sudoku. The logic is, it's very cleverly put together. Let's think about these two yellow squares. What's the minimum I could put into them? Well, it's 3 and 4, because if these are the 1 and the 2, the minimum I can put in here is 3 and 4. Which means this total here is a minimum of 3, 4 and 1, which is 8. Well, it can't be any higher than 8, or it's going to clash with the 9 or be a 10 or 11, which we obviously can't put in the Sudoku grid. So this is 3 and 4, which means these two squares are 1. That places a 2 here. We can get rid of this. This is a 1, 3, 4 triple. We now know that this is an 8. We know this is not an 8. This arrow now is under pressure because if I can't put 1, 3 or 4 in this domino, there must be a 2 on this domino, because if there isn't, the minimum I could make this domino would be 5 plus 6, which adds up to 11. So there's definitely a 2 in here. 2 and 5 would add up to 7. 2 and 6 is impossible because that would clash with the 8s. 2 and 7 would add up to 9. So this square is limited. Can't quite see how to use the 1s to my advantage, so oh, this is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Simple logic, but gorgeous. Look at this total now. It's 6 or 7. So what digits do we know for certain appear in these three squares? 1 and 2 must be in this triple. It's either 1, 2 and 3 or 1, 2 and 4. Why does that matter? Well, we now know this palindrome has to contain a 1 and a 2. And this square can be neither of those things. So these two squares are not 1s and 2s, which means these 4 squares are. These have to be the digits 1 and 2. And these two squares have to be a 3 and a 4. And oh, this is massive. This is massively powerful. Right, so now let's look at column 4 and column 5 and ask a very simple question. How many 2s, when we look at the finished solution to this puzzle, how many 2s are going to be in column 4? It's not a trick question. There will be 1. How many 2s will there be in column 5? There will be 1. So in these columns, there are exactly 2 2s in the correct solution. Well, I know one of those 2s is there, and I know one of those 2s is in that one of these two cells as well. That means there cannot be any more 2s in column 4 or column 5, otherwise there will be at least 3 2s in the finished solution in these columns, and that breaks the rules of Sudoku. So, can these two squares be a 2? Well, no, they can't. So this becomes a 1-3 pair, which means this must be a 1-3 pair. And that means we've got 1 and 3 in here, which means that the 1 and the 3, in order to get to 9, have to be accompanied by a 5, which means we know the purple digit, which means this square must be a 2 now. This 2 filters down here and gives us the 2 and the 1 pair there, which again, we unwind the palindrome, or by Sudoku. You can do it either way. The 1 here fixes the 1 and the 3. The 1 and the 3 get fixed at the top. This 2 places a 2 by Sudoku there, places a 2 by Sudoku there, and suddenly the puzzle has become, yeah, that we can keep going. 3. This is a 3. This is a 4. And suddenly we have made profound progress, haven't we? There must be a 6 in this domino to get this column this row, sorry, working. Can we go further than that? We might be able to. Let me just stare at this for a second or two. Yeah, this 4-3 here means that we've got a 4 and a 3 on the palindrome, haven't we? So let's unwind that palindrome. So we must be there must be a 3 in this domino. There must be a 4 in this domino. There must be a 3-4 pair in. So this column is now very restricted. This square's got to be a 6 or a 7, given this is a 3-4 pair. And we've got some arrows I've not even looked at yet. I've not looked at this arrow, which now has a 1 on it. So whatever I put into this square, you add 1 to it and you get what goes in the circle. And this square can't, well, this square can be 5, 6, 7 or 8 therefore. It can't be 1, 2, 3 or 4. So this square can be 6, 7, 8 or 9. That's actually not helpful, is it? Bobbins. No, that's no good. What are we missing? We are missing... Can we do more Sudoku at the bottom? 2. Yeah, actually, hang on. We should think about this arrow because there's a 1 and a 2 in the box. So these two squares, these two, yeah, look, these two squares cannot be a 3-4 pair because that would mean 3 cells in the box all had to be selected from 2 different digits, which is impossible without repeating a digit. So the minimum I could make those squares would be 3, 5. 3, 5 looks like it is possible, but if this was 3, 5, this has to be at least 8. So this is 8 or 9. So this square can't be 1, 2, 3 or 4. This square has to be 5 or 6 therefore. It can't be 7 because I can't put 1 or 2 in here. So this is 5 or 6. And we can't use 2, so this is 3 or 4. So there's a 3-4 pair, which gives a 3-4 pair in this row. There's all sorts going on in this puzzle now. 4, look, has to be in one of those 2 squares by Sudoku. What am I missing here? 8 must be in one of those 2 squares. Again, that's just a little bit of Sudoku. 9 must be in one of those 2 squares. Same thing again. 2 must be up there. Oh, look, 2. Yeah, hang on. 2 in box 6 here. I can't put 2 in the circle because I can't make these 2 cells sum to 2. So 2 is in one of 2 positions. And maybe I should look at the circles actually. These are the only circles I've not thought about, but we can limit them a little bit because if I know this is a 1, 3, 4 triple, this one, it can't be 4, so this can't be a 1, 3 pair, which means this square here cannot be a 4 because if this is a 4, this is a 1, 3 pair. So let's get rid of 4 from this cell. Now, so this could be 5 if this is 1 and 4. It could be 3 and 4, so this would be 7. And that is not telling us anything. This one here, this time this can be 4 because this could be a 1, 3 pair, or it could be a 1, 5 pair and this would be 6, or it could be a 3, 5 pair and this would be 8. So this is an even digit. Don't know. Now hang on, I've got this 3, 4 pair in row 8 as well. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. This square's got to be at least equal to 5. 5. Right, okay. So this square is restricted because this square is restricted. The options for this triple are either 1, 2 and 3 if this is 6, or 1, 2 and 4 if it's 7. So in terms of what's the maximum I can make this domino add up to, I could have a 2 and a 3 which would add to 5, or I could have a 2 and a 4 which would add to 6. So which gives us a 5, 6 pair in the row. So this square's not 6, so this square's not 5. Oh, 5 is almost limited. Look, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple in row 9. 5 is now in one of 2 places. I'm not seeing whether that's resolvable. I'm probably missing a very simple Sudoku trick there, I think, which is incredibly frustrating. 3, 4. Okay, so in this row we still need to place 7, 8 and 9. So those squares are 7, 8 and 9 in some order. 6, 5. Whatever you pick in this square, nearly, you end up with a 6 in one of those two squares. Now that would be very helpful if this cell had the option of being 6, because if we know there's a 6 in one of those two squares, and we do, we could rule it out of this square, but we can't do that because unfortunately this square can only be a 3 or a 4. Now, so where is it we're meant to look? We're meant to look... where are we meant to look? Can somebody tell me? There's not actually that much. If I haven't missed a simple piece of Sudoku, which is, it's very possible that's what I've done. But if I haven't done that, I'm not exactly sure what I missed here. We could... Does it, if this is a 6, does it matter for this? Oh, that's it. Right. Okay. Well, I had the right idea, but just the wrong logical deduction. I stopped thinking about it. Let's look at this square. This square's a 5. This square is a 6. If this square's a 7, this square is a 6. So we've talked about this already. There's definitely a 6 in one of the yellow squares. Now, if the 6 is here, it's very clear this is a 7. If the 6 is here, it's actually the case this is still a 7, but for a subtle reason. If this is a 6, how do I make this domino add up to 6 given the options at our disposal? This would have to be a 2-4 pair, which means this has to be a 1-2-4 triple, and it's still 7. So I don't know which of these is 6, but I do know that this is 7. And that means this is a 1-2-4 triple. That 1-2-4 triple means this square is a 3. That square's a 4. That means that square's a 4 and that square's a 3, unwinding the palindrome or doing Sudoku as we like. 7 is not now in this domino, which is beautiful, because now look at the options. You can't put a 6 in this square because this square can't be a 7. So this has to be 8. This has to be 9. Get rid of 9s from those two squares. This 8 fixes this square, which gives us a 6 in here by arithmetic. 3 plus 6 equals 9. That 6 gives us a 5 over here. And a 6 here by Sudoku. The 5 over here gives us a 1-4 pair in the corner, which means this square's a 2, which means this square's a 2, and suddenly we're off and running. We are cooking with gas, aren't we? 9 here places a 9 in that box. These two squares have got to be 5 and 6 to complete box 8, look, which means those two squares are 7, 8. These two squares are 4 and 6. 9. Oh, where does 9 go in box 4? Sudoku rules it out of the yellow squares. So 9 goes in the circle, which means this square's a 7. That square's a 6, which we could have got anyway just by looking at the column, but I forgot to do that. This is a 5. Those two squares are 7 and 8 in some order. Let's not colour them in. Let's actually put 7 and 8 in. This square here has got to be a 5. This 5 is looking at this square, as is this 5, in fact. So that's a 7, which helps us a bit with this domino. This domino must be a 3-4 pair, which places the 1, which means that's not a 1. This is not a 5, because of the 5 at the base. Now look at row 9. We've got 5 and 6 to place in these two squares, but the 6 here tells us that that's the order. So we get 6, 5. This is 5. This is a 7, 8 pair. That gives us a 7-8 pair here, which gives us a 4-6 pair at the top. Where do we put 9 in box 1? Well, with those two 9s looking at the box, you can only put it in the top corner. Nobody puts 9 in the corner, except us on Cracking the Cryptic. So now we've got all sorts of pairs going on. And yeah, that's actually quite strange now, because we must... this 7 is what's helping us. Yeah, I was wondering how we were going to disambiguate all the stuff in the grid, but we can just do it like that. 7s and 8s go in. That's nice. Still don't know about this 4, 6, 8 triple here. Let's look at the top of the grid. We've not placed 4, 6 and 7 yet. And actually, we don't know anything about those from what we've got in. Let's look at, oh, that square. That's probably an easiest one to look at. 9. These squares here have got to be 5, 6 and 8. 5, 6 and 8. That one's not 5. What's going on? Why can't I finish it? 9 in this box is placeable. It's just placed there. 9 in this box is just placed here. These two squares are 3 and 6. Yeah, okay. That's good. There's something very simple I'm missing now. It's infuriating. What is it? There's a 1, 3, 4 triple in this column, so this can't be a 4. Which means this can't be a 1, 3 pair, which means this can't be a 5. So this is a 3, that's a 1, that's a 5. That 1 places the 1 and the 4, which places the 4 and the 3. And that, I think, might be the final bit of logic we needed. This is now adding up to 6, so we get the 6 and the 4 all finished up. It's been a very clever puzzle, this. This square's now 8. The 8 and the 7 go in. That square's an 8 by Sudoku. 5 must be here. 6 should be here. That should be 4. That should be 7. And that's what I'd submit. And that's correct. Beautiful puzzle. Beautiful puzzle. And, you know, very tractable for once. And all we had to do was to think quite in a structured way about these palindromes and the way they influence the arrows. And I loved the repeating patterns down the grid. It's really... very clever, this. Lovely puzzle. Really enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too. Let us know in the comments, of course. We do read them. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.